Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to Be Your Own Hero. I'm a stage 4 prostate, bone, and lung cancer patient slash survivor. Been dealing with cancer since late 2020, early 2021, and doing very well and enjoying a very moderate, for Texas, moderate weather. It's in the 80s. We got a little bit of rain and sprinkles, so that's can't be any better here in Texas than that. We really appreciate the cooler weather. I'm so excited to welcome back Jenn McCormick from New York, and I'm chuckling because we've had a really, really nice conversation leading up to this interview, and we were sharing what I like to call war stories of cancer. And so we and we're going to share some of it, not all of it, because it was something else. But anyway, I'd like to reintroduce Jenn McCormick. Please introduce yourself again, and then let's talk about a little bit about who you are, and we're going to get into a great conversation.
Um, Hi everybody. I'm Jenn McCormick. I'm happy to be back here with Mark. Uh, I'm 49 years old and I am a previvor of colon cancer. I have a genetic condition called FAP that had put me at a 99% chance of getting colon cancer. So 2 years ago, I had my colon completely removed.
Think about that. That is that's a lot. I personally I do value my colon. Uh,
As you should.
let's let's talk about uh, the mental and physical aspects of cancer. You want to start off on that?
Yeah. Uh, as we were saying in our interesting conversation, there's a lot of things like physically that we go through, you know, every day through the whole process, and even afterwards, there's lasting effects that probably will never go away. But um, what hasn't really been like brought to the forefront until just like not too far ago is all the mental stuff that we go through. Like we're not just like fighting physically, which we are very hard, um, but having to deal with that and deal with our concerns and fears and everything. It's a lot mentally also, and um thankfully that part of our fight is being looked at more now, and um it's easier to find support for it now, and especially uh after everybody like thinks that your fight is over with, like you go into remission or whatever, and people that aren't going through it, they think, okay, well, you beat it, like you're fine, and you're all good, what are you still so upset about? They don't understand that you're still dealing with the mental stuff, and that takes a lot longer to get through than the physical things.
That is really, really well said. Uh, we go through all of these procedures, and it's a very individual thing. And
Hmm.
we go through it and we kind of like when we're going through it, we have to suffer on our own. Of course, we've got doctors and nurses around us, but we're the ones who are dealing with the effects of the whatever the procedure or the surgery or things like that. So why don't you talk about scanxi scanxiety?
Yeah, that was a word that I learned not too long ago. And it's something that I know that I go through, and a lot of people I've come to learn go through. After you've had like a traumatic diagnosis. I find myself like every time I go for like even like a simple scan or a test or a procedure or whatever, to check on things. I get like, especially like about a week before, I get a lot of anxiety during that week of, because like keep telling myself, like it's going to be fine, they're just, doing your checkup, whatever. But your anxiety, it keeps telling you, well, but what if this? What if, like, what if something's not right? Like you went in before for the same test and you thought you were going to be fine, and, they told you, that you had, whatever it is that you're dealing with, so you get all those what ifs, and it's a lot of anxiety leading up to those tests,
Right.
which is something that a lot of people don't realize that we go through.
Right. Absolutely. You know, for cancer patients out there, it's so comforting to talk to another cancer patient,
Hmm.
even though we may not have had a similar experience as the other person. We have gone through a lot generally.
Hmm.
And so there's a common ground that is pretty much irreplaceable. Somebody who hasn't dealt with cancer does not understand,
No.
these things that we have to go through, and the invasiveness of it. And I always ask myself, how did a human being ever figure out how to do this to another human being? It's just mind-boggling to me how,
Yeah,
you
I've
know,
I've
and that
wondered the
was
same
before
thing
AI,
sometimes.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
I mean, if it's up to AI now, oh my goodness, I don't even want to know what AI would come up with. So
yeah. That's a little scary.
it definitely is. So talk about your experience with your NG tube.
Oh boy. All right. That was an
Explain
experience
what it
that,
is first.
okay. An NG tube is a like flexible, it's well, semi-flexible plastic tube that goes, they insert it up your nostril and it goes up, and then it takes a curve and goes down the back of your throat into your stomach to suck out whatever's in there. Um, Getting one of those is not something that I would ever wish on anybody, even if, which there's an extreme, very few people that I can say that like I really super, super don't like, and I wouldn't even wish it on them. Um, it was one of the,
Find that hard to believe.
it just, it was one of the most painful things that I've ever had done to me. After my surgery, I I had a period of time where my intestines weren't working after my surgery. Like they were like asleep. They didn't wake up after the surgery. So anything that went in my body wasn't going past my stomach. Which includes the bile, that because your liver is continuously making bile all the time. So that was building up in my stomach, and anytime they tried to give me liquids, it would immediately make me nauseous and I'd be vomiting. And then it got to the point where I was vomiting all the time because of the bile just building up. And my nurse in the middle of the night, he said, Jen, he said, I got to tell you, he goes, if you throw up one more time, the doc's probably going to want to do an NG tube. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, what is that? And he explained it to me. And in the back of my mind, I knew they were going to end up doing it because I knew there was no way I was just going to magically stop being sick. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, they came in because I had thrown up again. So they come in. There was four people that came in. There was my nurse, another woman. I don't know if she was a nurse or what she was. She was the one that shoved that thing up my nose. There was two student nurses in there.
3 in the
Well,
morning?
yeah, at 3 o'clock in the morning. So they sit your bed all the way up so that you're sitting like board straight. Um, I had my nurse here and he's like, you can hold my hand. I'm like, okay. And then the one of the student nurses, she's like, you can hold my hand too. I'm like, okay. I'm so glad they did let me because I really needed it. The woman, they hold the back of your head and she goes, have you ever broken your nose? And I said, no. I said, is that what it's going to feel like? And she said, no. She said, but if you have, it makes it harder to insert the tube. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it does feel like they break your nose because just of the pressure of like shoving that thing up and then it's got to go down and like it's not meant to be there and it hurts so bad. So I'm squeezing these poor people's hand. I'm probably busting their knuckles out, and I'm like screaming and at the same time like my nurse, he's shoving like this cup with a straw in it. He's like, drink, drink, because you have to drink to guide the tube down to make sure that it goes into your stomach. And so like I'm trying to scream and I'm trying to drink water and this thing is going up my nose. And it was so horrific. Like it was traumatizing. And then they hook you up to the suction thing on the wall that's got this canister. And the minute like the suction started going, instantly this green grass stuff like filled the tube and like went. And my nurse goes, whoa. And I went, whoa. And for 2 days I had that thing up my nose. It was I couldn't take my walks around the hall because like you have to be hooked up to it. So the only time I was unhooked from it was when I had to use the restroom. And it was so horrific. And it did its job, It then so 2 days later, um, the nurse comes in and she's like, they're probably gonna take your NG tube out today. I'm like, oh great. So then I got to thinking, I'm like, oh crap. And so I had this one nurse, Kyle. He was wonderful. He was there for me like day one. Um, I said, Kyle, I said, this thing was so awful going in. I said, I need to hold somebody's hand while they take it out. He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So he's standing next to my bed, and the doctor comes in and she lays my bed out flat and she goes, are you ready? And I said, yep. And I'm thinking she's going to be like, 1, 2, 3, and then pull it out. No. So she puts her hand here. She goes, are you ready? I said, yep. She goes, close your eyes. The minute I shut my eyes, she whips this thing out of my nose, right? And I'm like, oh my God. And my hand goes straight over and I grab Kyle's arm and I'm shaking. And the doctor's like, you probably want to blow your nose. She's like, most patients want to blow their nose. I'm like, okay. And she goes, you're still alive. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, I literally, my whole body was shaking from having this thing whipped out of my nose. And it was awful. It was one of the worst things that I've ever had done to me.
Oh my goodness. For those of you out there who felt it like I have, I mean, it just sends chills up and
Hmm.
down my spine. I mean, my skin is crawling hearing that story because,
Yeah.
even though I haven't experienced that myself, and I hope I never do, uh, I've had other things that were, you know, really, really bad. So it brings me back to that. Um,
Yeah.
but we could, what's great now is you could laugh about it, and
Yes.
and that's
Yes.
such a beautiful thing. Uh, you
Yes.
know,
I can laugh about one of the worst things in my life, but not at the moment. At the moment, I thought I was gonna die.
right, right, absolutely,
But now it's a funny story, I can tell.
yeah, absolutely. Why don't you share with us um, the story when you were walking around the halls. Um,
Yeah. So, um, for anybody that's not had surgery before, especially abdominal surgery, the sooner you get up out of bed and walk around, it helps you to heal quicker. Like they're not just being, mean and nasty to you, it's actually like for your benefit. So you walk around like the little loop. It's usually like a rectangular loop, the corridor, and we call it doing our laps. Well, the first independent one that I did without, a nurse or an aide assisting me, we're all out there, we're walking with our ugly gowns on, some of us holding our gowns in the back, and some of us had a second gown that we put on like a rope so our little tushies aren't hanging out. Some people didn't really care and they just walked around, whatever. So anyway, I'm going around, I got my IV pole, and there's this old man coming the other direction, and he's got his IV pole. And when he had to be maybe like 70 something. When he got about 10 feet away from me, he looks at me dead serious and he goes, "You want to race?" And I started laughing. And I was like, "No," I was like, "You're probably going to beat me today." I said, and, but it was just so funny. It was the first time I had laughed since I've been there. And I didn't realize until that moment, like how much I needed, like just that silly little thing, and it broke up all the scary stuff, so I've never seen that man before and I probably never will again, but I'm very grateful for that minute when he made me laugh in the hallway.
and what it does is the humor takes your mind off of, your immediate things that you're dealing with and that you're worried
Mhm.
about. So that
Yeah.
humor is great medicine.
Yes.
And we've had some real good laughs before we started this,
Mhm.
talking about all of this. So talk about your family and and how they've supported you through all of this.
um my family's really been great. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't have the support that I've had. Either they don't have family, or their family just doesn't, for whatever reason, doesn't want to deal with the stuff that they're going through. Um, I've been very fortunate that I do have that. I have three of the best kids ever. Um, my brother who lives in Tennessee, like we talk on the phone, and he was there for me. Also, uh, I hadn't told you this, Mark, but later that year in December, he also had his colon removed, because he had gotten tested after I did, and turns out he had the same mutated gene. So in December, he went through the same thing. But um, just I'm thankful every day that that I have the family and friends that I have, because they're always there for me, through the good times, through the scary times, you know, I'm just very grateful.
It's absolutely priceless, to have that support. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, how has your outlook on life changed since all of this experience happened?
Oh boy, it has changed so much. As which is also something that I hear a lot of cancer patients say. As much as it sucked to, be diagnosed with this disease and to have to go through all the crap that I've been through, um, it's also been a big blessing. Um, for one, it completely changed how like I've always tried to be, like a glass half full kind of person. Um, and I've always tried to, appreciate life and everything. But boy, since in the past couple years, I see things totally different. I'm always thinking, like I'll be doing something with my kids or, whatever, and I think this is a memory, you know. This is something that, they're going to think of in the future and be like, hey, you remember, when mom did this or mom said that or, um, I notice that more and I notice there's a lot of ugly in life, but there's a whole lot of beautiful and it what you see, I think um you got to tell yourself, like look for the good because even when you don't think there is anything, and even if it's something little, there's always something good out in every day, So I try to look for that every single day, to just to look for the good and to try and be the good, you know, to sorry, excuse me, to try to be the brightness, for somebody, whether it's give them a compliment on their hair or, something nice that they did or to give them a hug or, um, well, I mean, I'm short, but, reach something for somebody off the shelf in the grocery store, like you see like the elderly people, they got like their little carts and especially sometimes when they have to bend over and get something. Now that's where I can help them. Like I can't reach the top shelf for them, but I can reach the bottom shelf when they can't get what they're going to get. And it's just those little things, like stop for 30 seconds and help somebody out. Like it's 30 seconds out of your day, but that's something that they're going to remember. They're going to remember that kindness. So
Beautiful.
that's how I look at life now.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Talk about what you're doing as far as advocating for cancer patients.
Um, well, I belong to an organization called One Cancer Place. um, it's a we encompass all different cancers, like it's like a lot of groups are cancer specific. We are a mismatch of all different kinds. When it really hit me, for my advocacy was actually last year when I went to Chicago for ASCO, which is the American Society for Clinical Oncology. They hold their annual meeting every year in Chicago, and doctors from and advocates from all around the world come to Chicago in the convention center, and the doctors and stuff like they speak on like their latest trials and things that they're doing. And we as advocates get to sit in on these sessions and learn like all these new like techniques and trials and everything. And, but honestly, the best times that I had in Chicago was we had a shuttle that went between our hotel and the convention center. And it would run all day long. I had the best conversations sitting on the like 25, 30 minutes. It was like 25 minutes um, for the ride. Um, and I can tell you the exact moment that it really hit me, like what an impact we as advocates make. Uh, I was talking to this one doctor. He was from France and uh he asked me what my story was. So I was telling him and he had asked my advice. Now here's this doctor, that's more well educated than I am, and he wanted advice from me, right? His father-in-law had Crohn's disease and he he had an
Let me
ileostomy.
pause you right there. That is a great doctor, I think,
Mhm.
who's willing to ask about, from a cancer patient,
Yeah,
instead of being, hey, I'm a doctor, I know it all, which many of them uh, act that way. I mean, that is a
yeah.
special person.
It,
I like that.
yes. And his father-in-law had Crohn's, and due to that, um, he had to have his colon removed, and he had an ileostomy, which it's the same as a colostomy, but the bag is attached to your small intestines instead of your colon. Um, so, but because of that, and his father-in-law lived with him and his wife. Um, because of the bag, like he was very self-conscious about it and he isolated himself in the house. He didn't go out, except for doctor's appointments, like he stopped socializing and everything. And he wanted to know if I had any advice on how to help his father-in-law, um to bring him up and to, um bring more life back into his life. And so I suggested um, a support group for people that are going through the same thing that he is. Because, as you know, as a cancer patient, it's golden when you can find people that that get you. So he said that he had found one of those groups and it had a person in it that same exact story as his father-in-law. He said, but his father-in-law didn't want to go. He said, so what do I do? And I said, honestly, I said, you can't force him to go because the more you try and force him, the more he's going to shut down. What you can do is just be there for him, keep giving him the tools, to help him. And when and if he's ready, he'll he'll make the step forward. But I told him, I said he has to do it. As frustrating as it is, as to watch someone you love, like you want to make them, hey, do this because it's better for you, but you can't always make them. And so I told him, I said, just be there for him and, try and encourage him to do it, but if he doesn't, you can't, like, don't push him because he'll just push back. And when he's ready, he'll go get the help. And I said, but unfortunately, he may never be ready. He may never want to do it, and but it just, like I said, in that moment, here was this well-educated doctor asking me for my advice. And like I knew advocacy was important before that, but in that moment, it really that's that was my aha moment on, how important it really is. And that's when I really started getting like more and more into it because I realized how important it is.
Why don't you share how we met?
We met, um, we met because we were both a common friend of Erica Hansen Brown, and you had friend requested me, and I'm like, Mark, I'm like, I don't know this Mark guy. I'm like, who is that? So the first
On
thing I
Facebook, by the way.
yes, the first thing I always do when somebody friend requests me on there that I don't know who they are, I go on their profile and I look at what mutual friends we have. Because then I know, okay, are you just like some weirdo, or are you like genuinely like, so I'm like, oh, okay, I saw we had common friends in common. And so we friended. And then I started following your group, the Conquer Cancer.
Cancer conquering community.
Yes, I always get confused about which one's first. Um, so I started following that, and then last week you had this speaker on, Dr. Gary, and I had seen like what the subject matter was going to be, about like using food as a tool and how eating the right foods um kind of makes your body like a battleship, you
Mm.
know and that's something that I'm very interested in right now. And because fighting cancer, it's not just all like doctors and medicines and surgeries and procedures. Like you have to also, you can't, I always think of, like your treatment isn't just all up to your doctor. Like it's a partnership between the two of you, and they have to do their part, but you got to do your part too. So you got to try and do what's healthy for your body, and to try and make it better. So I said, oh, I said, I'm gonna go on that one. So I watched it, and it was one of the best Zoom chats I've been on. Um, and afterwards, you had messaged me, and we really started talking, and we've had some really great conversations.
I agree. I agree. Jen, I have one last question for you.
Okay.
Um, what do you think? Where do you want to go from here? What do you want to, you want to advocate for cancer patients.
Mhm.
What is your goals, as far as moving forward, how you're planning on helping people?
Um, my goals are a little bit different than a lot of advocates. Like I I am absolutely all for learning as much as we can, because the more we know, you know, the better. Like when we go to our doctors, um, we can better that partnership. Um, but also for me, um, I find I'm much stronger in the support and the mental part of the cancer fight. Um, and I had somebody say to me, one of my friends from OCP last year in Chicago, I had just, because Erica came to me and she said, Jen, she said, how would you feel about having your own group, in one cancer place? And I said, that'd be great. And she said, I've noticed how like you're always posting like upbeat, like helpful things. And she said, so that's how I got started. She said, you come up with a name for it. So later that night, I came up with Sunny Side Up, it's a very happy name. So we had a group dinner, just like our group from One Cancer Place, our last night in Chicago. And at the end of the dinner, one of my friends and I, we were talking about it. And so I was telling her, um, how like I feel that the world, there's so much darkness in the world. Like it just like the world needs more light. It needs, it needs it. And she said, it needs you. And at first I didn't hear her, and I started talking. She goes, no, did you hear me? And she goes, it needs you. And I went, wow, that was one of the most sweetest, wonderful things anybody's ever said to me. And I recently had another friend tell me that when I talk to people, I see things that other people don't see. Like I see past what people say, um, if that makes any sense. Um, so, and I think that helps me to better help people, because I think when I talk to people, I understand them in a different way than others might, because I notice things that other people don't notice, or so I think that's, I want to build on that, you know in my future of advocacy. And um I also, like, I want to get my story out there, uh to as many people as I can, because I think my story, like all our stories should be told. And the more our stories are told, the more people that we can help.
Very well said. Very well said. Jen, I really appreciate this interview and our conversations. And thank you so much for sharing with us on to be your own hero. And you truly are your own hero. Uh, I think that, the world is definitely sunny side up from your side. And, I suggest following Jenn, uh, connecting with her, because she is a truly wonderful person and is looking to help people, which is awesome. Absolutely awesome. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to come on here and talk to you. And in effect, we're talking to all the viewers that are going to see this. And thank you for helping my story to get out there even more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what it's all about. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you out there for joining us here at To Be Your Own Hero. Please like, subscribe, make a comment in the comments section. And I just hope and pray that you have a wonderful week. We put these videos up every Monday, uh, and make the most. And we talked about it. Make the most out of each and every day because each and every day is just a gift. It's an absolute gift that we're allowed to open our eyes to a new day. Take advantage of it. Some days are going to be better than others. Some days are going to be spectacular, but keep living, keep appreciating your life, and make the most out of each and every day, each and every hour, each and every minute, and each and every second. With that, have a great week, and we will see you next week on To Be Your Own Hero. Thank you very much.